The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, welcome to SUGCON 2019 Applying for Call for Papers webinar. Today from SUGCON EU committee, this will be presented by Andy van Sade and myself, Rune Verhoeven.
Hey there, evening.
Evening everyone. So Andy, let's kick off with you.
Yeah, let's do that. All right. So the conference itself, a little bit of history. We started off now 5.5 years ago in this town called Utrecht in the Netherlands as a couple of idiots who have been working with Sitecore for quite a while. You probably know Robert Hogg and Mark Duiker from that time, and we started initiating the user group in the Netherlands and wanted to start off a conference. So with a couple of very enthusiastic speakers and our organizers, we started it off, and it went like crazy. And after 3 years, we were up to a point where we had 150 attendees. For those who were there in Eindhoven, became bigger and bigger, and we had more tracks already there, also on the marketing part. And at that point, we had to make a distinction where we wanted to continue. And Peter Brinkman had a brilliant idea to maybe team up with the organizers from the Danish user groups and maybe collaborate on that and continue from there. And yeah, I can say that from there, it took really a flight, whereas in Copenhagen, we were already on to 500, 600 people, 2 tracks for 2 days, quite much enthusiastic speakers. I might say that it would be a goal to grow bigger and bigger. And for an event, that is not particularly the case. For us, it's more getting together as a community and share your everyday experiences and knowledge that you have of the product. Whether you're a developer, whether you're a marketeer, or whatever your background is, as long as we talk and discuss Sitecore, that would be the main value of the whole event. And even now that it's becoming bigger and bigger, even Berlin last year, also the stages become bigger. It might be a little bit frightening to get on there. But yeah, for us, the main goal is to get people there that are just enthusiastic, and it doesn't really matter. But we'll get back to that on a little bit later. But it doesn't really matter whether you're an MVP or a junior that's very enthusiastic about something. Of course, the event is getting bigger, and of course your English needs to be proper, and of course you have to have some experience in speaking. But for us, if we can get together, have these brilliant sessions of people in whatever context, and have a good lot of fun during these 2 days and 1 night, that is kind of our goal, and bring these people together. So last year in Berlin, we had our 5-year anniversary. So it was a 1.5 day, roughly 2 days conference. Again, we have 2 tracks. So we tend to aim on marketing and development, although we're kind of looking into maybe different tracks as well, now that we have also cloud or commerce, or so based on all the call for papers that we will receive from you, we might move to different tracks, but roughly speaking, we have development and marketing tracks. So in these 2 days, we have a lot of sessions to place. So last year we had over 30 sessions, and there's roundtables. Some are just with 10 people, some are with like 50 people. So yeah, for people to attend, it's quite a good place to get their questions answered with the proper experts. And of course, I mean, we wouldn't be able to organize this with our sponsors, Sitecore for one, but also very important, our community sponsors. So we offer some sessions there as well. So that's roughly an introduction to the conference. And we would like for you to speak, and we're going to talk about a little more on how to do so. So, of course, the agenda, we would like to talk a little bit of ourselves so that you get to know us a little bit and maybe to reach out. What is new for speakers? We have some prerequisites for you, survey replies, and of course, if you're interested, and we certainly hope so, how to apply and how that will be working. So, yeah. So again, I mentioned already that the SUGCON conference was initiated by the Dutch user group and later on in collaboration with the Danish guys. So you might see quite some familiar faces, also maybe some lesser familiar faces, but these are all the guys and one woman right next to me who are proudly organizing this whole thing. We are, except for Rasmus, but we're all available in Twitter or in the community Slack. So if there's any questions, by all means, just reach out to us and we'll gladly help you with that. So that's on our part. And again, we do this together with Sitecore. So two famous guys, I would say, Peter Brinkman and Tomas, who have been working with Sitecore for quite a while and are very enthusiastic on this evangelism part. And we're really proud of doing this together with Sitecore, and they allow us to still be a community event, and they enable us quite much. So for the Sitecore side, you can reach out to those two guys as well. Yes. So next year, London, April 4th and 5th. Again, we are aiming for a 2-day event. I'm not going to share the location already, but I can tell you that it's going to be downtown. So for community, it's really nice to also, next to the conference, share, to be with each other, I would say. So it will be in April. And hopefully we can welcome you there. So what's new for the speakers? It might be a little bit daunting. I mean, I don't know if you have much experience of talking on stage. And again, to us, it doesn't really matter whether you're a big time MVP or just getting to know Sitecore and have like 2 years of experience. But since it can be a little bit daunting to get on stage, you might have questions on how to properly set up your presentation, how to speak in public, what to do about demos, should I put it on video or not, and all those little pointers that might be a little bit hard if you're not so much experienced. So what's new for speakers this year is that the entire organization of SUGCON will actually help you. So like you could see it like a mentorship, whereas you can reach out to us and we can probably help you with the presentation. Obviously, for us, it's a good an opportunity to check up with you and see if all the presentations are nice. But the aim here is that we can actually help you and maybe give you some pointers to make your presentation better or more interesting for the generic crowd, or to bump it up a little bit on quality, or whatever question you might have. And especially last year, we saw that we have quite some submissions by people who were sending actually like 8 or 9 sessions or ideas, which we really like. I mean, we really appreciate that you're very enthusiastic, but at the same time, 8 sessions, it's quite hard to pick from, and 2, it might be better to have 1 or 2 really good ideas and share those with us, because otherwise it's really not an option to select that. And we're actually considering, if we still get more and more of these sessions, that we actually gonna ignore all of those sessions overall. So again, we have all the organizers available. You have seen, I mean, me personally, I'm more like a marketeer, digital strategist, whatever you're gonna name me. So if you have a more marketing approach, then I can certainly help you. Una's next to me, more on the development, the strategy side. We have a lot of developers on board. Akshay, Robert, I mean, many years MVPs who can help you on the presentation side, but also on the depth of your subject, if you will. Yeah, and the last point is kind of important to us. Again, we have quite some community sponsors, which are often agencies or other agencies that promote their products. And although these products can be very interesting, and it might be also interesting to see how those products are actually built, the sessions itself are for people to bring something home with, to have some proper takeaways. So we don't really like sessions that are more like a promotion kind of talk, because the crowd will already zone out after 10 minutes either way. So we really want to go for those in-depth sessions that are not particularly about products. So that might be a good call to make for you there.
Thanks, Andy. So when it comes to actually applying to be a speaker for SUGCON, we only have one requirement, and that requirement is that SUGCON stage cannot be your first experience. We are not asking you to speak at as a prerequisite that you must have spoken in some kind of SUGCON user group. It's preferable, but it can also be any speaking experience. For us, it's just important that you feel a bit comfortable on the stage, and don't worry, everyone has that stage fright. We have all been there. We can work together on this. But if this is really your first time, I would strongly advise to try out a couple of other maybe conferences, maybe even internally at your office in front of your colleagues, just to get a feeling about the space and how you move around and how do you feel actually comfortable in doing that, because not everyone likes to be in front and on the stage. So this is the only prerequisite that we are asking, and you will see when we actually open call for papers, we are actually going to ask you the questions. Can you provide us with some videos or some links where you have presented or what you have done? That can also be the virtual webinars and those kind of things. And you do not need to be an MVP to speak at SUGCON. So we are really open and keen on having the new faces. We want to see just people joining this because this is a community effort and we want everyone to be able to enjoy themselves and to try out new things. So a while ago, there was a survey replies regarding speakers, which was performed by Women of Sitecore, and many have replied on that one, which I actually found very interesting as to replies why people are not presenting. And I can imagine that a lot of you have faced with something like this. I have nothing interesting to present. And although the SUGCON sessions are quite different than symposium ones, symposium is more business oriented, and SUGCON, because it is a community effort, we like to see some kind of cool ideas and proof of concepts, but that does not mean that we are not interested in the regular sessions. So just because something doesn't seem interesting to you does not mean that it's not interesting to others. Yeah. So before you actually decide that you have nothing interesting, ask us. And what you need to keep in mind always is this community is growing. It's not just community, Sitecore is growing. There are more and more new people coming on board. And just because you have the experience of several years and you find it easy, for many, that's something very challenging and difficult. And not everyone is prepared to go into full deep dive session, and they actually want to hear something for the beginners as well. So you do have something interesting to present, so please reach out to us so we can actually provide together a feedback on that.
I was actually thinking that one of the good feedback that we always get from these events are that like 90% or 95% is people that are working in agencies or at brands that have these everyday struggles, and that they can attend our event and have these proper takeaways that they can actually go to the work the next day and think of, oh, so that is the way I should do it, or I should have this approach or this method or whatever. So it's not per se about these big bang things, but these clever little things, or I mean, a session of 45 minutes of only workarounds is not per se interesting, but these clever ways of properly doing things can be very learning.
To have a proper takeaways that you can actually implement during your everyday work.
Yeah.
The other one, that the reply that we usually get is, I'm not in a technical field, that it's more kind of a developers conference, and we do have a marketing track. And the truth is, the amount of tracks that we have completely depends on what you will submit. So we're not going to define up front, we are going to split it this way, because we do not know what you're going to submit. So the decision is basically made at the moment that we see all the submissions from you guys. So you do not need to be a developer to actually submit, and we do encourage the marketeers, and even if you're just doing the content, it's perfectly fine. Everyone has something to present, so not being in a technical field is not a blocker. Another feedback that was received, that some people do not feel supported enough to speak. We are very keen to support everyone who is interested, but for us to know that you do not have enough support and you would like to do something like this, please reach out to us and we are going to make sure that you get all the support that you need. So this is something the first time that the entire organization is doing. So before we didn't do this, even though most of the people know where to find us. Now very openly and directly we're saying, if you do not have a support, if you have any questions, please reach out to the SUGCON committee and we're going to help you with it.
Yeah, but I mean, we're actually, what we often do is every year we open up this Slack channel specifically for all the speakers. So you all could easily reach out to us also through Slack and have a call or whatever. But you could also talk to each other as speakers. So to have also support from the others if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And a very frequent one, which is something that everyone of us has faced at least once in their lives, is I do not work on anything that you can or that you're allowed to present. So very frequently we have the contracts with the clients where we have the NDAs, so we actually cannot present on those kind of things. So what usually the advice is in these kind of cases is start from scratch. So take exactly the same principle as you can, but white label it. So you do not need to show the content from the client itself, but the idea of something that you have done is more than good enough for us. So this is really important to know, just because that you are not allowed to do it. So of course you cannot take the production code and come to the conference and share it with everyone. But as the idea, if you white label it, that's perfectly fine. And we are more than happy to see what you're actually doing that is interesting for everyone. So one of the things when it comes to how to apply is what we are looking for is you really, we encourage that people are as much as clear as possible and to provide the value and the context when they're submitting for call for papers. So once the call for papers is closed, all of us are going to sit down and read all your submissions. And trust me, that takes weeks. So the next time when you ask when are speakers going to be announced, trust me, we're doing our best, but we are going to hunt through over hundreds of applications and we are really trying to deep dive into them. And then we grade them and then we meet up and go through all the submissions and grades again. Sometimes if things are not too clear to us and we think that it has a potential, we're going to reach out to you and to ask questions. So one of the things to really highlight is, for example, this call for papers. So this is just one of the examples. It's not one of the particular ones, but if you send us something like this, I want to showcase how by using Helix principles, we were able to leverage Sitecore platform to the maximum capability. It's not going to land very well with us because it doesn't say anything. So this kind of submission is not going to help you being selected, to get selected. Because what is that you have used from the Helix principles? What was that part that it was different to help you to actually use Sitecore as a platform to the maximum? So we are really keen to get those details. And sometimes we see that people like to tag it with a Cortex or to tag it with a machine learning and the buzzwords. But if you're actually not applying that on what you're submitting, then there is absolutely no need to do it. So provide as much details as possible. even if it cannot fit into the form, just create a Google document or some kind of shareable link and put a shareable link. Sometimes people really go into details into thinking how their demos will go, and they send a document with a complete plan, with a flow, how their demo will go. And that gives us a very good idea about your talk. And that will really, really help us. So please try to put as much as context as possible when applying.
Yeah, what we often also hear is that, yeah, but it's still quite far away, and I have a rough idea, but I'm not too sure about it, and I don't know how it's gonna exactly look like. That doesn't really matter. If you have a good idea, just write down your brain fart that you currently have, and whatever works for you will also work for us. So as long as we can make sense out of it and have a very good understanding of what your idea is, that is also fine. It doesn't need to be very definite in order to send it out to us.
Yeah, and also the entire idea can be changed throughout the implementation. Maybe you realize that you cannot do some parts and you got the idea how to do something else, but as long as you keep in the flow what your topic is, that's also perfectly fine. So we are not really, we do not have any strict rules what you should not place in. It's not written in the stone, but the example that is here on the screen is something that we really cannot do anything with. Yeah. So if we see something like this, we're just going to go over it, and we're not even going to consider this. And maybe the person who actually wanted to share this, maybe there was something really, really valuable there, but we couldn't see it here because it doesn't provide any context. So when we talk about the sessions, as we were mentioning, Andy mentioned it a bit, and I talked a bit about it, we do have the marketing and the developers track, but it really, really depends what you will submit. So for sure, we know that we're going to have these two, but maybe we will have more. We just don't know. And here, as you can see, so here is Robbie. This is, I think, one of the most famous talks that SUGCON has ever had. Robbie the Robot with Rob and Bas. So this was one of those innovation proof of concept sessions, which was really well received, and we do like, we as a community really like to see those kind of things. So this is something that really distinguishes SUGCON from other conferences, that we love to see integration, something that you would not do in your regular work. But at the same time, as we said previously, although we love to see these things, that does not necessarily imply that you must come up with some kind of a crazy concept that no one has ever done, because keep in mind that there are many people who are very new, they're beginners in SUGCON world, and the reason why they have been sent to the conference was actually to learn and to be able to implement what they have heard within their daily work. Yeah. So there is a fine balance between the innovation and something that you can use in your everyday job. So we love both approaches, and we are not going to remove a certain session if we think that it's some kind of a crazy integration. I mean, we would love to see it.
Yeah.
So something to think about when applying. So this is kind of more of a summary of what we were saying here. Really think of when we say think of the takeaways, think of what people can learn from you. Think what they can actually do. So if it's about the everyday's work, think about what they can actually implement. So if it's DevOps, if it's more about the content, there is always that something, there was a catch that you have struggled a lot, you have figured it out, and now you made a presentation and want to share it with everyone. So that is something that is really going to be appreciated by the attendees. And of course, reach out to us, any questions that you may have, even if you think that your idea is not that interesting or a bit silly, it doesn't matter, just really reach out. We are here to help you. We are all in the same circle, part of the same community. And when applying for these call for papers, provide as much context as possible, because this is the only way that we can actually see your thought process and what you were actually thinking of doing. And even if it's just a brainstorm, you can put it as a bullet points, but we need to have some kind of context behind it. So when it comes to the don't part, please do not submit more than 2 talks. And I think that we're actually, the way how we're going to look about this is if you have more than 2 talks, then we are going to take maybe first 2 into consideration, and the others based on the date we are going to ignore. So instead of going, I'm going now to submit 10 talks because that means that I have higher chance of getting in. You're actually making it way more harder, because if you, for example, someone can provide 4 talks which are fantastic, it may happen, but it makes it very difficult then for us what to select out of those. Or you may end up with the risk that your 10 talks are so simple compared to what others have offered. So that is something that we cannot know. Only when the call for papers, when everyone is done and when call for papers is closed, that is the only time when we actually can read them. So you may end up in a position that people who submitted only 1 talk provided way more interesting things than you who have split it into 10 smaller parts. So this is the reason why we have decided that we're only, if someone actually submits more than 2, we're only going to take the first 2 into consideration. The rest, even if they may be good, we are not going to take into consideration. And this is the big change compared to the previous years. And as Andy was mentioning, do not base your talk on your company's product. We do have a sponsorship sessions. So for this year's SUGCON in Berlin, we had for both days a 45-minute session for the sponsors where they were able to talk about their product. And this is what those sessions are meant for. So, and this is also one of the reasons we are going to be able to see through the meetings that we're going to have with you and just by helping you out, if you're going to present a product or not. So please do not do that. Think of this as a community. Products are great. Everyone is using them, but this is not the, you are not going to end up to sell your product during the regular talk.
The experiences that we had in the last couple of years is that quite often we saw these talks, for instance, from developers who have been working on those products. So it wasn't, well, what they mentioned in their call for papers, what it's not about the product itself. It's basically how we worked on this product on top of Sitecore. So we always kind of hesitated in the sense that it might be an interesting talk, but and yeah, we often gave the benefit of the doubt, but in the end of the day, we were kind of disappointed that quite often in the end it was still about the product, not so much building on top of it. So although you might have a brilliant idea or brilliant experiences, we're kind of tending now to just ignore those call for papers because we simply cannot tell how it will end up in the end. And also, yeah, for our sponsors, it's quite hard to combine it otherwise. So let that be a little bit of a guideline.
Yeah. So this is the link for call for papers. The call for papers will be open from 1st of December. This link will be also shared on Twitter. We're going to share it on LinkedIn and other social networks. So
day after tomorrow.
Yeah, day after tomorrow. So Facebook, LinkedIn, it's going to be shared everywhere. We still don't know for how long it will be open, but this is the first time that we are opening it so early because we want to give everyone time to think a bit, to think about it, to think about what they want to present, what they want to do, and also to have enough of time that people with the questions can actually reach out to us. So call for papers is going to, I think for the first time, last quite a while.
Yeah, exactly.
And with this, we're finishing and we are ready for questions.
We do have some questions in the questions panel, and if you want, I can read it for you.
Yes, please.
So, you mentioned that presenting a product is not okay, but what about open source modules?
Yeah, kind of falls in maybe in the same categories. I can recall this unicorn versus TDS this moment that we had in the crowd a couple of years ago. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say that we won't like it. You can certainly try to put it in if you're a little bit hesitating. But if we have a little bit of a feeling that it might go still about the product, then then we might disagree. But
Yeah, and it also really depends what you plan to do with it and what kind of integration it is. So it's a bit difficult to tell unless we know what you're actually planning to do with it. So maybe before submitting, you can just come to us and ask the specific question.
Sure.
So, for example, I'm planning to do this and this. My idea is this and that. And what do you guys think? Is this something that you would be considering accepting? So if the answer is yes, you're good to go. If the answer is no, you know it from the start. So you're then not in the risk of submitting something that you know that it's going to fail. So, and especially that we are going to have that to limit submission part.
it's quite hard to answer in this in a generic way. So
Yeah.
in that case, we can also actually dive in this particular question. So I would say do that first.
Okay, what about case studies?
Case studies. Sure, if it's very interesting. And again, I kind of like the case studies. But again, as long as it's something that people can take home with. So what we often see is that we have case studies that on the agenda look very nice, but in the end, it's so generic and well, there are a couple of numbers maybe discussed, but you don't really see how something is implemented. So what we often saw is that on marketing automation or goals or profiles, or it was a whole lot of blah blah on what they achieved, but not exactly showing how that was done. So again, it's quite an interesting story, but it's not something to bring home with. And
Unless you can actually go behind and show how you achieved that.
yeah, so
which would be more beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So if that is the case, then we're certainly open to case studies. Sure.
Okay, can we promote our company or product at the end of the talk, like on the last slide?
No, you cannot do that because on the last slide we have all the sponsors. So every year you're actually going to get a slide deck from us, and all the sponsors will be listed there. If you want to promote your company, then you should contact Sitecore for the sponsorship packages. So all the sponsors based on the package are going to be listed in one way or the other.
Yeah, and the same way it works with MVPs. You quite often work at an agency, but at the end of the day, MVP title is something that you do for yourself. So of course you work for these companies, and I guess it might be nice to promote them. But we tend to look more into you personally as a speaker than as you for a company.
I mean, of course, you can always say, my name is this and that, and I am, Sitecore architect at this company. So, of course, introduction is perfectly fine. But promoting it on the last slide, we already have the sponsorship slide.
Okay, next question. Can I become an MVP by speaking at SUGCON EU?
Well, it does really help. Yeah, sure. I won't say that if you speak at the event that you will automatically be an MVP. But being an MVP is well, one of the most important things is sharing your information. So speaking at events, specifically your local user groups, symposium, but yeah, also our event will certainly help to become an MVP. So sure, yeah, why not?
Okay, can you talk about the speaker selection process? How many rounds? Who from the committee are involved?
Well, everyone that you have seen on the organizer slide is involved. It usually looks very chaotic because all of us are into one hangout meeting. So what we usually try to do is we first go, each of us separately through all the talks, so everything that has been submitted, and each of us provides a certain grade. And then we actually, normally we have one meeting for 2 weeks, but for the call for speakers, we actually have 2 meetings, I think, per week,
Yep.
which last over 4 hours, and all of us are debating that. So you can imagine having now what, 12 people.
It's always great fun, sure.
And it is a great fun, but it really takes a lot of time. So for the last SUGCON, we only had 2 weeks, and we had really long calls to make it on the time and to inform everyone. But basically how it goes, we have the first round and everyone participates, and then we start narrowing it down. So based on the average grade that the person has received, then we select a certain number, and then we go again and again and slowly narrowing it down until we actually get to the number to fill in the slots. So it's not 1 round, it's not 2, it can be 4, it can be 5. Sometimes we can go back and, for example, what may happen is that we are not really sure for a certain talk, and then we need to go back and to revisit it. Sometimes what may also happen is that people decide that due to the certain professional or personal reasons that they cannot attend. So sometimes what can happen is that we actually have the talk which is approved, but the speaker cannot show up. So then we actually need to go through the top ones all over again, and all of us are going to meet up and to discuss, let's say, the top 20 that were not being selected, and we are going to debate them.
Yeah. But to summarize, basically we have the call for papers out. Then I would say somewhere during the first quarter of next year, we will close the call for papers, during which we will discuss this whole grading system and whatnot. We will have a pre-selected list of the talks that we really like, and then there will be a list of the people that we have some questions with. Again, we will be reaching out for all those ideas and maybe helping you with your talk. So there will be a little bit of space where we have interaction. And at a certain point, it's that easy, we will just let you know that either you became a speaker or not. And that's it. It's not a whole difficult part, and we know that you are all quite busy people, so we like to keep it quite lightweight, if you will. So yeah, your main focus would be on the call for papers form for now, I would say.
Yeah.
One suggestion on the open source module, Sitecore PowerShare extension. It's a must as a presentation.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, we also suggested them to have a workshop at Symposium for the next year.
Okay.
No, but since we're talking about it anyway, we would like to send out these surveys on what topics people might find interesting, and maybe we will still do that. But if you have any ideas, we always like to hear them. So please let us know.
Will there be a rating like beginner, intermediate, advanced for the sessions?
Yeah, we're still kind of discussing that, whether or not we're gonna do. We kind of like it for this year, but I mean, if it's about a technological method, I don't know, something for MVC. There is this Microsoft rating, the 100, 200, 300, 400. We like something like that, but it's quite hard to actually pinpoint what level something is for all the sessions, for the technology, for the marketing session or whatsoever. But we also hear the fact that in sometimes you look into the agenda and you're thinking, okay, this is gonna be my #1 session for this conference, and it's really dull, and it shows you everything that you already know. So we like to come up with something, and I don't know how particularly, to help making a choice.
Yeah, we're still in the discussions about this part. This is something that we really would like to do, and hopefully we'll be able to do it this year. But as Andy has said, it's very, very difficult to pinpoint what is the deep dive and what is not.
Yeah. There will be probably in the call for papers, there will be a question how you, if you submit something, what level you would think it would fall in, and that is probably already the problem, because your context might be quite different from somebody else. But at least to have some level of how difficult it's going to be, or what the score will be. So yeah.
How long should be the presentations?
Normally 45 minutes.
Yes, normally it's 45, but always keep in mind to leave 5 to 10 minutes for the questions. So aim to have at least half an hour filled in or 35 minutes so that people actually can ask the questions, or they will need to find you a bit later on. So aim around 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you have in mind any number for the mix between European and non-European presenters?
No, we don't really mind that. Although it's called SUGCON Europe, it's more that it's based in Europe, but it's not applying really to the speakers. So we obviously like a good mix, but yeah, we're not gonna name any numbers.
No, and especially we really pay attention on the topics. So we do not look as much who the person is or from which country they are, etc. We're really focused on the topic when we are selecting.
Thank you. Next question. On some previous SUGCON events, they supplied speaker coaches. These guys were really helpful. Could something similar be organized for SUGCON EU?
That is a great suggestion, and this is something that we can try to see if it's possible. But for now, we do not have something like that at all, because keep in mind that the organization committee is community. So we do not, ourselves cannot provide you something like that, but we are for sure going to take this into consideration and to see what we can do to provide you that.
Yeah.
Can we submit a talk with more than one presenter? How many presenters maximum?
Maximum, I would say certainly 2. But last year we had quite some struggles with the number of speakers, more in a physical form. So how many could fit on stage? We have bigger stages and smaller ones, but also in terms of microphones, it might sometimes be hard. So we haven't said no officially to 2 presenters, but that would be really the maximum. But we like 1 presenter is better, to be honest.
And it really depends how you practice it, because sometimes what happens is that, people may not practice enough, or they, you come in later and you're seeing the stage for the first time and you're not really sure where you need to be and where the other person needs to be. And then sometimes, the switches can look awkward. So we have nothing against it, but sometimes it's just a technicality that it may be a bit difficult. So if you're presenting with someone else, I would say think of the value that the other person is bringing, and maybe write us if you're submitting with other speaker, to tell us which part you will be covering and which part the other speaker will be covering. That will help us a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Can we share screenshots from this session in the social media?
Absolutely, and this is also going to be, I think, publicly shared because it is video recorded, so share it away.
Regarding the audience, what do you think is the ratio between business and technical?
That really depends of what you guys submit. So this is something that we really cannot tell until the call for papers is closed.
Yeah.
Because we really don't know what we are going to get. So there is absolutely no rule for that.
Okay. Is the conference ticket free for the speakers, and do you pay for a flight and the hotel for the speakers?
It depends on you. Only joking. Yes, the conference will certainly be free, so you have full access to the conference itself. We often have also a separate room for all speakers that they can be seated and prepare properly. So we have everything in the venue for you that is available. Again, we are completely sponsored So SUGCON is helping us, and the community sponsors are sponsoring us, but it's the budget is normally not filling to do these hotels or plane tickets. So normally no.
What are you doing to ensure equality and diversity of speakers? Will women and other minority speakers be given higher priority for selection?
We take everyone equally. As I said, we are not focused on the presenters, so we do not look the gender, we do not look the color, we look only at the topic. And I am aware of that for the last SUGCON, we only had one female presenter. And I can share this openly. The only reason why we had one female presenter is because women did not apply. So based on how many, if they do not apply, we cannot force them. So the only way actually to achieve diversity is to actually have more people to apply. So for Berlin, we only had 3 women that have applied for the same slot, and one of them was selected.
Thank you. Do you think 1.5 days is enough? Cannot we have 2.5 days?
Well, personally, we would love that, but it really depends on sponsors. I mean, it has always been 1.5 day, so it has already been planned in that it's going to be 1.5 day for this year, but maybe for the future years.
To be perfectly frank, is that we have a location in mind. So we do have a certain availability of rooms and slots. So we have a little bit of wiggle room how many sessions that we gonna do. For instance, last year we also decided to have some sessions that took longer for 60 minutes instead of 45. So these big topics. So there is still some wiggle room in there left to do something. The part that we don't really like is that we have 8 tracks to pick from, and it's really hard to see everything. So it's always a goal to have. I mean, you always have these tracks, but these different tracks, but we always aim for you to have some, at least have all the space and time to get all the content that you need to bring back home.
Yeah, so what we're really trying to do, for example, if we see, Berlin was a good example for that. When we saw that we had several DevOps sessions, we did not schedule them at the same time, which actually does happen in some conferences. But what we did is we created like a small track, even though it was under developers track. So if someone is interested in a certain topic, they would not be missing on that topic. So that is also one of the reasons why the announcing of the schedule takes so much time, because we are really trying our best not to overlap the same topics.
The last question is, have you considered having breakout discussion rooms also this year?
Sorry, breakout discussion rooms?
You mean the roundtables?
Not I mean, but the one who asked the question might think about that.
Yeah, I think that we call them the roundtables at Berlin. I think that we will have them the next year as well. Yeah. Because the feedback was so positive by having that, and this is also something that you can suggest which topics you would like to see to have the breakout sessions for. It would help us as well. Instead of us coming up with something, it's always better if it comes from you. Yeah, and I've actually been making photos last year, so I've seen all the sessions, and there was actually a roundtable with only one presenter and 3 people who came around to ask questions. And the way we look at this is that we already think that three people have been helped. So generally speaking, we would probably have one big room and a couple of breakout rooms and a roundtable room for different topics to actually speak with each other or somebody that we propose to lead that room.
A couple of times you mentioned that share ideas with you. What is the best way to do it? You can contact us on Twitter directly. You can contact us on Slack, LinkedIn, no Facebook, please. So any really of the social SUGCON networks that we are using. So because this is also going to be shared, the Twitter handle for SUGCON Europe is SUGConf.
So there you can find all the informations, and it's very easy actually to find us all. So pick any of those social networks and you can contact us directly. And for the record, we have agreed on the same thing this year as well, and that is that organizers will not be speaking because it wouldn't be fair. So sharing your idea with us is safe. We are not going to steal anything away from you.
Thank you. And last question I have on the list, do you plan to extend the organizer group?
We have actually extended it now, so we brought in 2 more people. So it really depends how the conference will grow in the future.
Yeah, and again, I started my story that we started off with just a couple of idiots who had this good idea. So it is a conference from the community for the community. So it doesn't really make sense to have an organizer team of like 25 people. But we're always open for enthusiastic people, and yeah, if you have anything to bring to the table, let us know.
Yeah, and be aware of that this is for that we have actually started preparation of this conference, I think, at the beginning of September.
Yep.
So the SUGCON 2019 preparation already started in September, and we are going to finish it after the SUGCON is finished. Yep. So be aware of that. If you're interested in joining, it does take your private time, and calls are in the evening, and when the call for papers actually closes. Mm-hmm. So it's not just that we're going through, the selecting process. That is where the real work is, but we are also very involved in the social networks, the creating of the site, preparing the slides for you. So everything that you're actually receiving from us and everything that you're seeing being presented comes from the organizing committee. So all of that takes time to prepare, including the video recordings of the sessions and those kind of things.
Do you have any information about a SUGCON user conference other than Europe, like in Canada?
No, we do not. We're only involved for the European one.
These were all the questions we had in the question panel.
All right. Well,
okay, and thanks everyone for attending. These are the hashtags that we're using on Twitter, and this is the Twitter handle, the official one of the South Korea User Group Conference. And please reach out to us and feel free to share all of this.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. It's kind of our baby that takes always half a year to
to deliver.
So yeah, we're looking really forward to us, and we hope to share our enthusiasm together with guys. By guys, I mean also women, of course. So yeah, let us know.
Let us know. I'm looking forward in seeing what you are going to submit.